Well, good morning. It's a beautiful day at the end of May. I've been home for a couple of days now from my West Highland Way walk and Hebridean Way, and I thought I'd just go through the kit that I took for the West Highland Way. So starting off with the rucksack, good old Osprey Atmos 65, really good rucksack. This worked extremely well. I did have the rain cover for it in the West Highland Way, but unfortunately I lost that in Hebridean Way. Slipped down a couple of times. I think it must have fallen off then, so I've just had to buy a new one. Inside the rucksack, bin bag, just belt and braces, and then carry more dry bag. Not great, but it did the job. My tent was a good old lounge out too. This worked extremely well, nice and light, quite compact. I used this with a footprint, which you can see underneath this. I'm pleased I took the footprint because it was really quite wet, particularly on some of the campsites, so happy with that. And of course my two trail poles, black diamond trail poles, wrapped gaffer tape, duct tape round them, just in case I needed to do some last minute mends. So that worked extremely well. My sleep system, I used the Rab Ascent 500 sleeping bag, and I did buy the silk liner, which worked well to keep the sleeping bag clean. This was always warm enough. On some days it was actually a little bit too warm, but it works extremely well. I've used that for a number of hikes that I've done and camping that I've done, and that's a great sleeping bag. And for my sleep system, I used the big Agnes Rapide SL. Not sure about this. I never sleep particularly well when I'm camping, but this, I tend to sort of roll off this quite a bit. I experimented with making it very well pumped up and also not very well pumped up, but I still didn't get particularly good quality of sleep. I think I might sell that and get a Thermarest, which seems to have padding all over it, less likely to fall off it. The big Agnes has got tubes that run down the length of the sleeping pad, which don't help particularly for when you're sleeping on it. For a pillow, I used my Trekology blow-up pillow. That works extremely well. But I also took one of the Decathlon pillows, pulled out the stuffing, did a little bit of sewing, and I stuffed that with my Rab down jacket, which I found was really useful for a pillow. For clothing, I took with me my Rab Electron Pro down jacket. I was really pleased I took that because a couple of times it got quite cold. Never had to wear this when I was actually walking, but when you get into camp, it's good to put something warm on. I also had my Rab jacket. Excellent, really good, breathable, fully waterproof. And I took my Berghaus Hillwalker Overtrousers. I wore these a couple of times, but actually generally when I was doing some quite heavy duty climbing up hills and they were a bit over the top, I was pleased I took them just in case of any really poor weather. But actually when I got to Oban after the West Highland Way, I sent these home and bought a cheap pair of regatta Overtrousers, which were much lighter. These are quite heavy. I bought with me a Berghaus fleece. That was useful. I'm not sure I would take that again because actually generally I was warm enough with putting a couple of merino tops on, but it was moderately useful. And a Rab Vital hoodie. This weighs next to nothing and is really good. It's not fully waterproof, but actually it will protect you from light rain and also from winds. I use that quite a lot. Underwear, 3 lots of Icebreaker underwear, 2 lots with me and 1 lot wearing. They were fantastic, really worth splashing out for that. Merino tops, I had 3. This one's a Decathlon one, I had a DHB one, and this one is a very lurid animal one. I didn't really like having the animal logo on me, but I got it for cheap as chips in the sale. This is long sleeved, and I tended to have this as a base layer and then put another one over, and that kept me plenty warm enough. On trousers, these were the Montane Terra trousers. They're fantastic. They work extremely well. Lightweight. Whenever it rained, if I didn't put my Overtrousers on, they dried out really, really quickly. Fairly impervious to muck and everything, and I washed them a couple of times, just hand washing them. They dried extremely quickly. Can't recommend those enough. I wore a pair and took with me 2 pairs of Bridgedale socks. Worked really well. Didn't get any blisters at all on the West Highland Way. My feet were generally dry most of the time. I also took a Rab beanie, which I don't think I ever wore. Last minute purchase, couple of fingerless gloves that I bought in Lidl a couple of days before I left. Again, these were only a couple of quid. I wore these a couple of times and they stopped me getting blisters on my hands when I was using my hiking poles. For the evenings, I had a long sleeved shirt, which was like that, and long johns. I bought these last minute from Go Army. Didn't really like these. I think I'm going to splash out and get some merino long johns. Often I didn't really need them because it wasn't warm enough. Nice little buff, that was useful. And I did bring with me this long scarf. It's got a name, a Schmal or something like that. Didn't really wear that at all, so I wouldn't bring that again. Got a cheap pair of flip-flops, which were very useful for in campsites, just to air your feet and walk in the showers and things like that. And boots. Boots or shoes? The big debate. I had the Salomon X Ultra 04 Gore-Tex. I bought a slightly higher pair, but I found I couldn't get on with them. These were fantastic. They work really, really well. However, I will give you a close-up of this in a minute. There is, about on day 5 of the West Highland Way, the outer started to come apart from this, so I will be sending it back to Salomon. Very disappointed in that, but they still worked extremely well. Okay, in my rucksack as well, again, cheap little Decathlon sit mat. On reflection, I think I probably want to make this slightly larger, but this works very well for just manoeuvring yourself out of the tent and sitting down. Took a trowel in case I was wild camping, didn't actually need to use that. Compass, I always take a compass with me just in case. And in terms of maps, I took Harvey's map. I'm not sure that I find these particularly useful because they don't tend to have the detail. Of more use for the Cicerone guidebook and OS maps. These are really good, they're quite heavy, but they give you a good indication of sort of where you are and the background to the West Highland Way. I also took my phone and I've got the OS maps on there. Absolutely worth subscribing to OS maps, they're really great. You can download them, turn your phone to airplane mode, and it hardly uses up any juice at all. I also took a little hip belt. On reflection, I think I probably would have got a neck belt, because this slightly interfered with where the rucksack was, but this was very useful for just keeping snacks and my phone and a few little bits and bobs in. And I also brought some little headphones with me, just in case I was feeling a bit fed up and wanted to listen to an audio book or music. I did take my Petzl Active Light. Didn't really need this an awful lot actually, because particularly in the Hebrides it was very sunny right up until 10:30 or so, but when I did need it, it was very useful. And I also took my trusty Anchor power bank. That's good for 3 or 4 charges of the phone. Charges up again pretty quickly. And I did take my Samsung fast charger to make sure that my phone was. In terms of food, I took a few tent meals with me. Real termats, fire pots, tent meals. These weigh a little bit more, but they're really good. I'm vegetarian, so don't have an awful lot of choice. These tend to be couscous based and have nice little bits of fruit and nuts in them, and they dehydrate extremely well. So that's tent meals, high energy health. This was 800 calories and just 202 grams, so I'd recommend those. In terms of cook system, Jetboil. I found this works well. It's a little bit heavy, but it boils water extremely well. I took 2 small gas canisters, which I wasn't allowed to bring back on the plane with me. Didn't really use an awful lot of gas, but I would take my Jetboil again. And I also bought a little BRS gas burner. Weighs something like 20 grams. Bought that from Amazon a couple of weeks before I left. Used this actually more in the Outer Hebrides when I wanted to cook 2 meals at once, and that worked very well actually. I'd take that again. I took 2 lighters with me. They're cheap, and this was great. This is the Flextail Gear Tiny Pump. With my sleep system, it comes with a bag that you can actually blow it up with. But this is a really powerful little pump, weighs next to nothing. And at the end of a long day's walk, it was just so much easier pumping up my sleep system with this rather than faffing around with a bag. I also bought a plastic mug, just because I've been too tight to buy a titanium one at the moment. In terms of sort of comfort and things like that, I did bring a midge mask and some smidge. Really lucky in that I didn't have to use them at all. Hardly saw any midges at all, but I did go right at the beginning of May, and it was quite wet and damp. I brought with me a gram counter towel. This is good. It dries really quickly and it works quite well. You can hang it out the back of your rucksack, but it does attract an awful lot of little flies and things. I did use the idea that I got from Hayes Outdoors, which was taking a couple of cheap Tesco sponges, using one to wipe down the tent in the morning and things like that. That worked really well. Using the other one to sort of wipe the main water off me when I had a shower and things like that. So I just finish off drying with the towel, and that kept the towel moderately dry. In terms of looking after myself, very small antiperspirant, biodegradable travel soap that I got from somewhere like Millets. This was fairly rubbish. A little bit of shower wash, toothbrush and toothpaste. I did buy some of these wet wipes. They are biodegradable apparently. I didn't really use them, so I'm not sure that I would bother with those again. In terms of first aid, I took a little bit too much with me and thinned it down later on. I took some Compede. I took a tick mirror. Which worked okay. Didn't get any ticks at all, but did check. Took some water purification tablets, a few bits of plaster, some Imodium just in case, some paracetamol and things like that. Very small little pack of cards, which I got in a Christmas cracker actually. These were really useful for sitting in the tent, playing patience and things like that whilst away at the time. Took a few vitamin tablets, and these are really good. You can get the SIS tablets if you want to pay £6 for them, but these from Home Bargains cost something like £1.50 for 20, and they work just as well. A couple of these in your water at the end of the day keeps you hydrated. A few clothes pegs just to hang things up. A little notepad. I've written in here my itinerary, the whole of the time away, and it was also useful just to have something that I could just write in. In terms of coffees, I took these Nescafe 2-in-1 that have the white coffee. They're okay, they're tolerable, but I didn't use many of them. And a few hot chocolate, Sea to Summit spoon, and my Opinel knife. Great, really good. And that, I think, is everything I took with me. As I say, came into about 14.5 kilos with water as well, which I thought was manageable. I could probably thin it down a bit. I took 3 other dry bags with me as well, again caramel ones. I'm going to ditch those because one of them's already got a hole in it, which in terms of a dry bag is not particularly great. But I did take some plastic bags as well and wrap my stuff with them. So, that's my kit list for the West Highland Way. A few little tips. I did have gaiters with me, which I used in the Hebrides. Didn't need them at all for West Highland Way. If you're thinking of doing West Highland Way, it's well worth doing the walk. It's a brilliant walk, but it does get pretty busy. As I say, I went at the beginning of May, and there was still, I would see 30 or 40 people a day on the trail. As the days go on, the trail thins out a little bit, and if you're looking for a bit of solitude, I found the best way was to get up early and leave by about 7:30 or 7:45, and then you wouldn't see many people on the trail. Tip 2, take hiking poles. Unless you're a young thing with titanium knees, particularly if you're carrying a moderately heavy rucksack, these are worth their weight in gold. They really help you going down hills. They really help you with the section from Inversnaid onwards and Conic Hill, and as you're approaching some of the higher hills. And clearly I need to take them because my tent works with them. Boots or trail shoes? I would tend to recommend boots. They kept my feet pretty dry. Trail shoes, I think I would have got wet, and when I got wet feet in Hebrides, it did lead to some blisters. So light boots would be my choice, completely up to you. Book your accommodation and campsites well in advance. They got very full. I did book a camping pod once or twice, and that was really good to have, but they were booked out very quickly. I booked my train 3 months in advance, and as a result, for my trip to Glasgow, single to Glasgow, it was only 28 quid, which was really good value. If you're thinking that you might fly back, take photo ID. I meant to take my driving licence and forgot. Got to Inverness Airport, showed them a photo of my driving licence and passport, and they wouldn't accept it. So they said I couldn't fly. I was a bit disconsolate about that, so I lost 70 quid and probably had to stay over in Glasgow. Went and sat at the back of the check-in to see what I could do, and then they took pity on me and allowed me to use my rail card. But I don't think they were supposed to do that. So take a photo ID if you think you're flying. A few sections of walk are quite taxing, so don't just roll up not having done any walking, particularly with a rucksack before, and expect to find your way, find it easy. I've done quite a lot of running before, and I've done a few long distance hikes before. For the 3 months before I did spend these 3 weeks away in Scotland, I did do a lot of walking and quite a lot of running, and some walking with a fairly heavy rucksack just to acclimatise myself, and I was very pleased I did that. You probably don't need to take much in the way of food unless you're going to wild camp all the way through, because West Highland Way is very well equipped. Lots of places to buy food, lots of places to resupply, lots of honesty boxes where you can buy food and drink, lots of shops, restaurants, things like that. So as long as you're happy to spend a bit of money, it's fine for that. West Highland Way is pretty well signposted. It's difficult to go wrong on it, but do take a map and a compass and your OS maps on your phone, just in case you find the cloud comes down or you're in the middle of nowhere and get lost. Belt and braces. Be prepared for whatever weather it will throw at you. When I was away, beginning of May, we had rain, we had wind, quite heavy wind actually. We had some sun, so it got quite warm. And I was pleased that I took the variety of stuff that I brought with me. I was never cold, never got too wet, so that was good. Last of all, enjoy it. It's a really good walk. It's worth doing. You see some fantastic scenery, particularly in the last 4 or 5 days. And it's quite sociable. You get a chance to talk to other people. So my tip is go and walk the West Highland